Okay, as in go? Sorry, 1 second.
Forktales, a podcast that feeds the food and beverage world.
Oh, awesome. Forktales is brought to you by Vigor, a branding and marketing agency for passion-driven, innovative restaurant, beverage, and hospitality brands. Learn more at vigorbranding.com. If you love what we're serving up, please give Forktales a 5-star review on your podcast service of choice. Think of it as a tip for good service. Hey everyone, today instead of having a guest to interview, I wanted to share a new podcast from our friends at QSR Magazine. This podcast is called QSR Uncut, and it's a weekly podcast with Danny Klein and his cohort, Ben Colley. I had the pleasure of appearing on the podcast last week in their second episode, so I thought it'd be great to share that with y'all today so you can get a listen of what they're doing over there at QSR. Enjoy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of QSR Uncut. I'm your host, Danny Klein, editorial director at Food News Media, publisher of QSR and FSR, and joined again by my colleague and co-host, Ben Colley. And we actually have a special guest this week in Joseph Szala, if I pronounce that correctly, the managing director of Vigor. But I will give Joseph a couple minutes here just to kind of introduce himself, do it much better than I can possibly do it. He's also got a book out there that I know he shamelessly wants to plug, and we support that here at QSR Uncut. So, take it away.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm Joseph Szala, and like you said, managing director of Vigor, also curator and critic and founder of Grits and Grids. And then, as you alluded to, most recently, author of The Bullhearted Brand, building restaurant brands that charge ahead of the herd. So really excited. That's about to be on sale shortly.
All right, cool. Well, we appreciate you joining us. This is, as we said last week, a new thing for us. Last week was one pilot, and this is the second. And on that, just kind of some housekeeping. Thank you to everyone who did listen last week. We had a very good response. Feel free to, leave us an iTunes review. Those really help the algorithm out. And as I said last week, it doesn't actually matter what you say in the review itself, only that you leave one. That's apparently all that iTunes really cares about. So say that you like school or the clouds or QSR Magazine, all are the same to us in terms of what we're talking about here. And also just as a magazine, please subscribe. It is free to any restaurant industry professional. We have e-letters across both sides of the segments too, and those are also free. And just in terms of the questions themselves, we are crowdsourcing these and got a great response, but, if you want to participate in that, if you want me to answer a question or all of us too, and, give you a little bit of a shout out, you can reach me through LinkedIn. You send me a message, email me, you call me. Really doesn't matter either way, but I welcome all feedback. So the other thing too, this week we're going to do a little bit different here at the beginning, and we're going to begin with a segment that we're going to call Ben's Deals. And so for anybody who works here at Journalistic, which is our parent company, Ben gets more excited about restaurant deals than probably anyone that I have ever met, especially the 3 for $10 at Chili's, which is something that he waxes poetically on. So I'll open the floor for you, Ben. Just talk a little bit about what's going out there in the fast food, world for people to go chase in the value seeker business.
Well, let me preface this segment by saying that I am a very value-driven customer. So whenever you hear restaurants speak about value and the importance of value to the customer, they are speaking directly to people like me. So the first one I have on my list, obvious one, it's the big news of the day. The McRib is coming back to McDonald's. The McRib is coming back November 1st. Actually, it marks the 40th anniversary of the McRib. It launched first in Kansas City in 1981. and it has been periodically torturing customers ever since.
Have you ever had the McRib by chance?
I have not had the McRib, but my mom loves it. I know she's a big fan, and she waits with bated breath every time, waiting for it to come back every time it goes away.
Yeah, I wrote this on social media earlier that I feel like the McRib is one of those sandwiches that we all remember where we were when we first ate it, whether or not it was a good or a bad experience. For me, I was in a cafeteria in Tallahassee, Florida. I don't remember any of the backstory, but I do remember getting the McRib, and I think it is an unforgettable sandwich, depending on how you want to view that. I don't know if, Joseph, if you've had one.
Yeah, I'm laughing over here because I don't remember exactly where I had my first one, but I do remember the feeling of, well, for me, I think I made a mistake.
Right.
It's like you can tell you shouldn't like it. As someone who like loves food, I'm like, this should not be as good as it is. But I have the same feeling with McDonald's McNuggets as well. Like I freaking love those things, and I know I'm not supposed to.
That's how they get you. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you can't quit the McRib. That's the reality of it. But all right, yeah. What we got next?
Next one is Caribou Coffee. They are starting a subscription program. This is sort of it's sort of different from what Panera is doing. Caribou's more doing it as a delivery service where you can choose what you want delivered, and you can determine like the frequency of which you want it delivered. And this has been a growing trend in the industry as of late. A lot of companies out there have been turning to subscription services to build loyalty and to really leverage that digital customer. Some other examples, of course, as I mentioned, Panera has had one since last year, and that's gotten a glowing response. And Taco Bell also has a subscription out there. They're testing a taco one out in Arizona where people can get one free taco every day for 30 days. They're testing that at a few select locations over in Arizona. And then a couple of health-based brands like Clean Juice, Urban Plates are testing out subscription programs. And then if you want to go back even further back in the past, Burger King tested out a coffee subscription program back in, I believe it was 2018 or 2019. So subscription services are starting to get a little bit more notice and traction out there as customers go more toward digital.
The Burger King one, was kind of maybe too ahead of the game. I think it makes more sense now in terms of how much, off-premise and delivery and these things have picked up. But, a lot of people have asked me, though, what's really the point of this, especially in Taco Bell's case? Who eats one Taco Bell taco? Nobody, of course. Do you really want to eat one Taco Bell taco every day? It seems like a kind of a crazy concept. But, however, the real lure to me is just in this concept of attaching other things to it and that loyalty part and really digging into that element. The fact that you would go to Panera and get coffee and then maybe also get a pastry, that kind of concept is, I think, really where the future win there. And also the retention battle of, you can get customers onto loyalty, but, how do you keep them? That kind of idea. It's really not that different actually than getting, page views to your website, but then it not being random people who come in and out every month, but getting them to keep coming back. So
for Caribou, is it like a hot coffee delivered, or is it their beans?
I think it's like their packaged product.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's more in line with like a Black Rifle Coffee Company or one of those brands that. Okay, I was like, man, that's kind of what kind of privileged world do we live in where someone's just going to deliver a black cup of coffee to you every morning?
Hey, man, it's coming. Somebody's going to do that. Kind of service.
If someone would only sell the machine that could make that coffee for you, wow, that's the future I want to live in.
Okay, so the third and final deal is Wendy's is launching a Friday freebies in October. And a little bit of background about what this deal is before I get into the details. Wendy's recently launched a new hot and crispy fry. So they're improving their fry and to to build notoriety and promotion around this new fry, they're having a deal where every single Friday, with the purchase of a medium fry, you unlock a free deal. So I think a couple of Fridays in October, you can get a free chicken sandwich with the purchase of a medium fry inside the app. And I think on another Friday, you can get free chicken nuggets with the purchase of fries within the app. So they're doing a heavier promotion of their improved fry in throughout the month of October. And then to make the offer even sweeter, they're also offering a $0 delivery fee every weekend in October. So if you are interested in Wendy's fries and the improved fry, they will be having a list of special deals every Friday throughout the month.
I have personally not had that new French fry at Wendy's. I
have not.
cannot speak to it.
I'm not sure if they've. I think they had during their last month they had a virtual meetup where they really went into detail about the improved fry and the texture and all the background of it and research that went all into the production of the fry. And I believe they said the rollout would be sometime around this time frame. So it's just, I think it's just in the beginning stages of the fry getting out to the consumer. And I guess in October they're doing the heavier push.
Yeah, so I don't know, Ben, if you remember this. I'm sure Joseph does. Is back when Wendy's had the yellow packaging. That was me kind of the the iconic version of the brand of my childhood in terms of ordering baked potato chili, a Frosty, and a bacon or double bacon cheeseburger in one stop, and that being what was so unique. But I will say, from those memories, the fries were probably the thing that needed the most improvement, just in terms of they were always kind of a step below, I think, what the perception of McDonald's was. So probably a good move on their part, I think, at least a proactive one for sure.
Yeah, I'll throw myself under the bus. I really love those damn fries. Like the chunky, like they're kind of like chunky russet potatoes. I don't know why. I just find them to be. I'd put them as number 2, I think, in the big 3. So like McDonald's, love them or hate them, man. Their fries are so good. And then I love Wendy's fries. So I'm gonna go to Wendy's tonight and get my fries before they change them on me.
Is Burger King 3 there? Is that what the?
Yeah, Burger King I think would be number 3, because then you get into like weird like crinkle and curlies, and I'm like, oh, what are we doing, guys? Like, let's just stick to the sticks,
I do love the Arby's curly fries, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's like a craving though. It's like I don't really see them as French fries. I don't know.
Yeah, I saw something on Twitter the other day about tater tots. Being, is that a French fry? And the answer is definitely no. but we all teach their own, I guess. Okay, we will jump into questions here. So I'm going to start with a question that was actually on your page, Joseph, from Stacy Schulist, who, I wrote down here marketing leader, advisor, and all-around restaurant genius, which I hope she appreciates. But I've heard a lot from her over the years. She's one of those kind of industry mavens, or wealth of knowledge. So definitely give her a follow or reach out to her if you're interested in just hearing about insight in the industry. But anyway, her question is, would love to hear your thoughts on internal branding and marketing to your employees, how important you think this is, and what are the best practices for doing so. So Joseph, I'll let you start since this was your question in reality.
Yeah, sure. Stacy's great. And so I'm glad you picked that one out. I think now more than ever, it's become very clear how important marketing internally is. We do not need to wax on about the troubles that we're having as an industry in finding help, let alone good help. And I think the industry as a whole is realizing we have a bit of a perceptual problem when it comes to careers. What does a career in restaurant mean? And I think for a lot of folks, it just means pushing buttons on a register unhappily as a means to an end. But my gosh, this industry has so much upward potential. And I don't think we do a very good job of telling that story collectively. And so I think that starts with internal marketing communications, understanding what your brand means, not just to the people outside, but to the people internally, and why does it matter? And then following up and delivering on your promises as a brand. So, for instance, if you are a fun, offbeat, quirky brand, and you bring someone inside the four walls and you drill them into the ground with immovable processes like a dictator, people don't want to really work like that. A good case in point would be Dutch Bros. I don't know if you've been to one, but the people there have more than drank the proverbial Kool-Aid. They are in, and there's something magical happening there. And I think that doesn't mean you have to be fun, quirky, offbeat. It just means you have to make a promise, make a statement, and stick to it. And then make sure you're telling that story and living it through operations, procedures, training, support, and benefits. And before everyone gets scared about the B word, benefits in the truest sense, meaning like, what is the benefit of working here over, say, the person down the street that's doing the same thing? That can come in many forms. It can come with, of course, college assistance and things like that. But maybe it's just having one paid day off a month, just call it what you want, come and take it kind of thing. So I think it's incredibly important. And if you have restaurant leaders that haven't recognized this need, I don't think they're going to be around much longer.
Yeah, I think all of those points are very vital. I was talking to Portillo's recently, and Portillo's probably like Dutch Brothers, like Chick-fil-A, like some of these other concepts you say in a cult-like kind of format, and you say that in a lovingly manner because, like you said, it seems like everybody in there has truly drunk the Kool-Aid. When I was talking to them, they mentioned a lot of these kind of buzz things of, it's like a family and this and that, but some things they're doing that are tangible. They're giving $3 an hour extra on holidays to hourly employees who work. And, at the end of the day, was $3 an hour that much money? I don't know. I guess not, but it means a lot to somebody that, you're just offering them that kind of, you listened to what they wanted and gave it to them and they couldn't get that elsewhere kind of thing. And I think those things are all important, and it's so true that in restaurants, we don't often talk enough about, the story of sort of the rags to riches from the dishwasher to the corporate office, because the restaurant industry has long been one of those few places you could really entry into the workforce kind of no matter what your background is. And yet you can still also climb the ladder. And that is becoming an important part of this. And then also understand that it is going to be a stopover for some people. And how do you make it one that's not miserable like you brought up there? And some of that, and again, going back to Portillo's, they're big on cross-training people, so you have the ability to not do the same job every day and just kind of things along those lines. And I do think that being able to actually illustrate that within your own organization is such a important thing. I mean, Jersey Mike's is a good example of this. The other day, we're going to wrote a story about their culture, and someone wrote it's not the culture, it's the food. And my argument to that is that there are a lot of restaurants with great food, and then why are some doing so much better than others, including Chick-fil-A maybe being the best example of this. And if you don't think the culture is important and employees drinking the Kool-Aid, and like Joseph said, probably going to end up not being all that successful. So
that's part of the product. I mean, it perplexes me for someone to say that, because if I had $1 for every time I spoke to a restaurant, entrepreneur looking to start a concept or one looking to grow their concept, and what makes you different? Great food, great service. And I always laugh because I'm like, congratulations, you're in the industry. But how do you think great service manifests? It doesn't manifest by creating mindless automatons that just follow procedures. Great service is a byproduct of a strong, real, authentic culture that people have bought into. So that person's wrong.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think someone the other day said to me, how does Chick-fil-A manage to have, 2,000 restaurants, 2,600 restaurants, and every employee is nice, generally speaking. And it's one of those things that, of course, they have operations and procedures to, get that, and they're stricter on some things than other people are and all that kind of stuff. But at this point, it's feeding itself. You go to work for a Chick-fil-A and it's like you're putting on a mask. You're going to go become this person for a day. You're going to be a Chick-fil-A employee because this is what goes viral on social media. This is who they are. and you wouldn't be working there if you didn't embrace that. And that's, I think, what's also happening at Jersey Mike's now, and Portillo's and Dutch Bros, even though I have not been to one. But just this idea that once you get that through the door, that becomes something that is so much to me more valuable than just the quality of your food in quick service. But yeah, we'll jump. So Ben, I'll let you take the first crack at this next question, which is from Ben Pryor, who's the head of innovation at Spot On. He also worked at Noodles and Company as a trainer and development leader for a decade. And I went back even further and saw that he started out as an assistant GM at Brinker. So again, going back to our stories of how you work your way up this industry. But so the question that Ben came up with is, when the proliferation of virtual concepts and brands, or with the proliferation of virtual concept and brands, what advantages, challenges, or opportunities do established brands have over the next 18 months in order to thrive?
Well, I would say that you have to understand that with the virtual brands were the result of a time when, so many restaurants out there needed an extra revenue source. So I guess before even answering that question, you have to wonder, what's the lifespan of virtual brands, and how many of these will actually continue into the post-pandemic? Is it something just to take care of things for how conditions are right now, or do a lot of these restaurants see it as a long-term venture? Of course, some do, like Chili's, and who have It's Just Wings. That's an example of a lot of investment in a virtual brand that's going to probably be for the long term. But some of these other ones, there's no telling if it's a long-term solution or just a kind of short-term kind of plug in a tire sort of thing. But I really think it cannot be understated, the importance of brick and mortar and having a sign out there that consumers can see, and having a restaurant that you can actually walk into, and to be able to, like we were talking about in the other question, the culture that you're able to display. And you just have to, I believe it's just a matter of, trusting your brand and trusting your product, especially some of these companies that have been around for decades, trusting that legacy and trusting that connection that you have with consumers is going to outweigh these virtual brands that have been popping up just within the past few months. I think it's a matter of being able to leverage the brand equity that you have, and being able to leverage the product quality that you've been known for much longer before the pandemic even arrived, and letting customers know that it's going to be the same when the post-pandemic period comes. And I also think, of course, we all know off-premises is here to stay. It's going to be a higher mix at restaurants, much larger than it was pre-pandemic. But dine-in is returning, and the value of being able to sit in a restaurant is returning. And people have shown eagerness to get back out and want to enjoy that experience. So that dining experience is still very valuable, and I think it will be. I think a lot of restaurants are recognizing that dine-in will still be valuable in the future, while also creating that place for off-premises.
Yeah, so I think that there's a huge divide in this virtual brand conversation that's going to lead to a major shakeout probably within the next year or so. And I think there were two types of virtual brands that basically erupted out of this. One was what we would maybe call an opportunistic brand, which was just a brand that was created out of thin air to go out and sort of make good of the fact that there was suddenly so much delivery and takeout and being, infused into the industry from consumers who were being introduced to it or just were scared to go dine out. And in that world, you have, a lot of these celebrity, type concepts and things like that are incredibly powerful trial products, in my opinion, to get someone to go, okay, well, I was talking to, James Walker over at Nathan's, and he said, well, I'm a huge Star Wars buff, so if Mark Hamill had a burger company, I would obviously be first in line, but if the burgers sucked and the experience sucked, then I would never come back. And I think at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of that. I think there's going to be a lot of these virtual brands that sort of burst to the seams and then fall off when people realize that they're not really much more beyond whatever the gimmick might be. And maybe they have great food. Is it worth it, beyond going there once or twice? We don't know the answer to that yet. But then I think the more exciting corner of this business are the brands who are using this virtual growth to actually spread their brand awareness, to satisfy it in markets that it already exists that they can't open in, at the pace that they want to. And, Nathan's is a really good example of this, because what they're basically doing is, they're growing through, companies like Franklin Junction and Reef by, saying, okay, we'll bolt on, Nathan's into an existing kitchen facility, whether that's an independent restaurant, whether that's a facility itself like a Reef, and then be able to go and deliver Nathan's to a market that they don't have a brick and mortar. However, they're still Nathan's, right? Who has, sold 700 million hot dogs last year. So they're not really trying to build a brand out of nothing here. They're just using these growing webs of channels to, kind of meet demand that was there that they couldn't serve before. And I think there's massive potential in that concept moving forward, because, you could go seed markets all over the place. Whether or not you want to go and actually build infrastructure afterwards, I guess is, maybe not even that an important part of it. However, you could go to, again, using Nathan's, they went to Brazil to kind of try it out. They knew they had the demand, but it was going to take them years to get there otherwise. And that kind of stuff, I think, is going to be huge for a lot of restaurants. But personally, I don't know what the longevity is of the concept where people don't know where the food comes from and it's not an actual restaurant. I think we need to check back on that in a year. It might be big. It might still continue. But, last I heard, I think I'd seen there's something like, 100,000 of, these virtual brands into the marketplace on third-party aggregators right now. And that sounds like too many to me, but, maybe I'm wrong. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think it's a bit of a bubble. Not that the bubble's going to burst and they're all going to fall apart, but the strong will survive. And so how do we define strong? I would say the strong ones are the ones that have embraced branding beyond just a logo and a cute name, that have really thought about brand as business, because that's essentially what it is. Your brand is your business is your brand. And so when you think of it through that lens, the question starts to develop around product mix, differentiation in that product mix, and then things you can control. And when you're talking about virtual brands, there's a lot you cannot, but there's a lot that you can. And so things like the packaging, the food packaging, not the design, but how can you deliver a viable product to people that stays warm if it's a warm item, doesn't condensate and create rubbery French fries, things like that. And I think that's where those leaders really need to focus in and make sure that they're doing the absolute best they absolutely can in this scenario. I see a future for it, though. I think that future, like you said, Danny, is still a bit foggy in what that looks like.
And I think, and I was just going to say, I think the future is really bright too for the Chili's of the world, who are taking corners of their menu that weren't getting any, recognition on third-party delivery platforms, and using this to rebrand themselves, for an audience that is just searching something specific. Like if someone just wants burgers, they're probably not going to land on, IHOP.
Right.
But, if you create a burger, virtual brands, I think that's a really great and exciting element of this, to come out of that. Like It's Just Wings, for example. That's something that is, I think, Ben might know this for sure. I think it was $150 million opportunity,
and they surpassed that.
They were able to grow it, and that would just simply not have happened on its own. They were not going to send $150 million worth of being, a wings concept on DoorDash as a Chili's, So that part, I think, is going to last, and it should.
Yeah, and with that, just for anyone listening, we don't need another wings brand. Like, we just don't. And because I think we're very well covered there. I think you have great players out there doing great wings. So when we talk about what's next, I think it really is, like you said, Danny, that innovation. And it can also be a really great way for larger brands who are a bit, I hate to say, more doppy, more slow to move, to rapidly test viability of new products and then see, do we have a market for this? Will this sell before you adopt it into a menu? So I think innovation and just thinking a bit different about this and maybe taking your mind out of the traditional idea of what a restaurant does could offer up a lot of opportunities to capitalize on positive effects of virtual.
Yeah, Ben did get a order of Cheetos wings from a virtual brand.
Yes.
Cosmic Wings, right?
Cosmic
Review?
Wings inside that they're made inside Applebee's kitchens. They gave me a taste of pretty much the whole menu: the flaming hot, the regular Cheetos. I think there was boneless and tenders. I think there was, but very very interesting twist. They definitely went for a little bit of shock value with that product with the Cheetos flavors. I also
Right.
this is
Yeah.
kind of sort of off topic, but I saw Buffalo Wild Wings just released a limited time Doritos flavored wing sauce. So Frito-Lay really is inserting itself into the restaurant menus as of late.
And that's nothing new. I mean, they were doing that with KFC over the years. I have not tried either of those things, so I don't I don't know how I feel about them, but
And of
but
course,
it
Taco Bell, right?
looks cool.
Yeah, it definitely does feel like you're kind of narrowing your customer reach when you develop a Cheetos flavored wing. So
Yeah, and maybe that's the point, though. Maybe you're trying to target someone very specific, and you can do that virtually in a much more cost-effective manner than you could with an LTO. So I think that's has legs too. And it's a good example of Cosmic Wings. They had kind of first started out as I think it was Neighborhood Wings by Applebee's, and it really wasn't that successful. So they took their own name off of it. Kind of go back to what I said before: is that people don't that power of branding and association, and people not associating Applebee's with wings was something that they had to get around, and this allows them the opportunity to do that. And so I think that's where we will see this continue. And like Joseph said, you still have to pay attention to the same tenets of running a restaurant in terms of packaging quality and so forth. And that's where we'll kind of have winners and losers. And I do think that time is coming. Perhaps when dine-in returns in full force. But
Yeah.
all right, and we will move on to the third question here, which is from Carl. I think this is Arsborn, if I pronounced that correctly. Either way, he is the co-author of a best-selling book, Delivering the Digital Restaurant, which I just got my copy personally this week. I have not started reading it, but I see it all over LinkedIn all the time. So Carl's question is, under what conditions can you imagine from the digital disruption occurring in our industry that a storied brand could fade away, like Sears and big box retail? So before I hand this over to you, Joseph, since you were the branding guru, I will tell a story from a few years ago. A&W actually came to our office to teach us how to make root beer, which was pretty great. But one thing that they brought up, or the CEO Kevin brought up, was that the Atlantic had put them on a list of brands destined to fail within the next X amount of years, and then they had kind of emerged from the depths. So what I will say as a quick answer to this, it is very difficult to kill a restaurant chain, especially one with serious equity. I mean, you've had a lot of brands that have nearly disappeared. Bennigan's comes to mind, Chapter 7, yet they still beat on. Quiznos is one too. You've had a lot of chains over the years that have gone from being maybe really, really big to a blink there, but oftentimes, like I said, it is very difficult to end the life of a restaurant brand. But with that said, you can definitely dig yourself into a massive branding hole. So, what are your thoughts on this, Joseph?
Yeah, I think it ladders up to a singular word, and that is cultural relevance. I think that's really what it's all about. I just finished reading a great book by Greg Creed called Red Marketing. and relevance is the R in red. And it's actually a really good, I think, insight. And so why do brands fail? Why do they close up like a Sears or so on and so forth? And I think it's because they fail to recognize a cultural shift that is beyond trend, that is truly a shift. And they fail to respond or better get ahead of it and be proactive in that shift. So, a good case in point of that happening would be Yellow Pages. Yellow Pages, I know it's not a restaurant brand, but they stuck to their book quite literally, even though people were going way off the book. So what being Monday morning quarterback here, what could have Yellow Pages done? Well, created power partnerships with the likes of Google or the likes of Apple to be the engine that runs systems like Yellow Pages on their platform. But they did it, and the advertising model didn't work anymore. So there was just a lot of misses there that, of course, a Monday morning quarterback can say. I obviously wasn't in the trenches with them, but there was a cultural shift that was way beyond trend. Trends come and go, but cultural shifts are permanent. And so when people talk about the digital revolution or anything, like, we've revolved. It's not a revolution. We're here. It is now, we are in digital life. And so if you have restaurant brands that have only sort of adopted or kind of integrated, they're quickly falling behind. And we all know what happens when you do that. You start clamoring for anything. And so how can brands go extinct? Well, they can go extinct by making half-baked attempts at integration, but not really committing, or just not even caring and riding the wave. And so there's brands that have been built, for instance, on mall food courts. They're not working, man. The food courts are dead, and the food there is not good. And so if you haven't stepped away from that and you're just continuing to ride the same mold for fear of change, that's how you fail out. I will say that for those that are, stumped for digital revolution, I think for every action there is an opposite and equal reaction. And so those who really lay into full service, non-digital, and just really own it and focus on creating an experience that cannot be had at a digitally activated restaurant also has a place. So it's not to say that if you're not digital, you're going to fail. And I think you kind of touched on that a little bit, Danny, with A&W. It really is hard to have a huge company fail out. So I think it'd be interesting to see what happens, like with the likes of like a Ruby Tuesdays or something.
Right. Yeah, they're a good one. Because, they're in a position now where the salad bar, which was their differentiator, has now become, not only in the COVID bubble as being, not so relevant, but even before that as being a very widespread and suddenly even more accessible thing in fast casual. And that was kind of one of the troubles that they were having. But yeah, in that Red marketing book, Greg Creed, former Yum CEO, that story he told, I don't know if you remember, it's just kind of about when he had first started his career and he was working at this, wool cleaning company or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And, that they were having issues with some celebrity coming out and, taking their market share. And so his answer was to give away like a knitting book with every X amount of, product or whatever it was. I'm probably butchering that story, but it's basically that concept. So he tapped into the cultural relevance of the fact that sheep were very important in Australia, which, when he said it, when you read it, you're kind of like, that's, one of those things that sounds maybe not real.
Yeah.
In terms of like, is this possible? But then the answer is yes, because like you said, it made them culturally relevant to people. And that was far more important than pretty much anything else. And so he learned that at that point, and it took him through, Taco Bell and the things that they did there when he was in charge. We all remember the Liberty Bell when Taco Bell, pretended to buy it and people lost their mind. And it's always kind of a fun story. And then nowadays, Taco Bell, if you go back, people kind of forget they were in a lot of PR trouble, not that maybe a decade ago, people were accusing them of having filler in the meat and all this kind of crazy stuff. And, nowadays, you have Taco Bell hotels, you've got people getting married at Taco Bell. And that was not the case that long ago. They managed to really create that lifestyle brand, and now everybody is mimicking them. Yep. And that's what fast food has become in a lot of circles. So Ben, I mean, do you remember, just is there a brand from your childhood or a food experience that, kind of stands out that, maybe isn't there anymore, or you just kind of think is something that has stood with you sort of for time?
Well, Danny, you know me. I've sung the praises of Golden Corral many a time. Growing up, Golden Corral was the go-to place for any kind of celebration. I'm I'm pretty sure we went to Golden Corral after my high school graduation and my college graduation. So that was always a place for meetups. And of course, the situation that brand faces right now is, with COVID and health and safety issues, and their form of service with the buffet, it seems, how sustainable can that be going forward? Are people going to want to eat at buffets come post pandemic? Is that a viable form of service going forward? And to Golden Corral's credit, they are adjusting. I think they've implemented some off-premises formats, and I think the CEO also mentioned even trying to transition into more of a fast casual format. So that's one. That's one where it'll be interesting to see how those kind of brands proceed into the future. I know CC's is in that kind of same boat, and how they're adjusting to everything. Also, Pizza Inn is also facing that same struggle. So it'll be interesting to see how those type of brands, those buffet brands, and how they can adapt going forward.
Well, one thing I'll say about that, just listening to you talk, though, is I think there needs to be a little bit of a caution flag for those concepts getting too far away from creating those memories of you going to Golden Corral as a kid celebrating things. If Golden Corral gets too far into being a fast casual, and CC's kind of similar for me. When I was in college, we went there after football games. I had never been or seen such a thing in New York City, and then I get to Gainesville, Florida, and I see this $5 pizza buffet where the mac and cheese on the pizza and all this wild questionable kind of things, yet we're also super craveable. And so I always think that there's danger in that brand drift. You obviously want to react to people's fears and their concerns with what's happening with COVID, but I think with all restaurants right now, there also needs to be that kind of reset button of being able to pull back some of those pivots that you made over the last year and a half, or however long this has been at this point. Because again, to your point, in the fast casual space, Golden Corral, of course, are they going to compete in terms of just, delivering food to people, or are they going to compete as a buffet concept where, you can be a celebratory occasion restaurant and also give people all this option? So my thing there is, I just think as we begin to emerge from, COVID, that fog and that quarantine lockdown life, that a lot of these restaurants need to have that in their back pocket to reactivate who they were before and why they mattered to people, because that is a dangerous slope to it happened with casual dining back in the millennial rise, is that so many of these brands tried to expand their offerings and their menus got bloated because they were chasing a guest who was never going to dine there in the first place. And so what ended up happening is that you had this all things to all people kind of world. And then in time, it course corrected itself. And, Chili's is a great example of being proactive here, cut their menu 40%, focused on fajitas and margaritas and the things that people knew them for, and they became a lot more successful. Applebee's got back to value. So I think COVID presents that same danger too. Just do not become too much of somebody else in a world that already has too many options.
It's a great point. I mean, so just tacking on to that, Danny, just to kind of wrap it up, I guess, a little bit on this topic, but the value thing, if people don't see that coming down the pike, steamrolling at us like a juggernaut, you're not paying attention. We have all the makings of a cultural shift back to value mattering way more. And not value in the sense of, here is a burger that is high quality meat and I'm going to sell it to you for $15. I'm talking back to when it was like, hey, can I get a 25-cent taco? You know what I mean? We're in inflation right now, which looks like it's going to become stagflation or worse, recession. We know that we have inflated the dollar and we continue to do so. And without getting political, that has very real economic implications. Now, tack that on top of a generation that lived through parents having to go through the last Great Recession where they maybe lost their job, had to get back on a budget. Combine that with just the frugal nature of, Ben, I believe your generation, if I'm going to make a gross assumption. The value-minded brand has a big opportunity to take a step back, evaluate how it has presented itself, because I think Golden Corral has a very dated look. So you can update the look, update the experience and that visual feel, maintain and reinforce the value, and I think you're going to come out of the gate swinging because that wave is coming. And I do think it's going to become harder for these fast casual brands that come with a premium price to compete in that new reality. And maybe I'm wrong, but it has all the makings, man.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I definitely think for sure the quick serves who have kind of moved away from the bottom run of the barbell a little bit lately because they've seen success on that premium side of their menu and are trying to offset inflation need to make sure that that's something they can bring back into the equation.
And that's where digital has its place, right? You can start to create a higher quality of team member, meaning we're not going to put them behind a keyboard and have them mindlessly hit buttons, and instead use technology as a way to optimize the bottom line in operations and then create a higher quality labor force. Actually, I hate that word, but internal patron that is excited to be there. And then that can also lead to STEM careers, because we're focused more on the technology. So technology may be the means to realize a higher value and optimize that bottom line so you can output good food for a good price that people love, a brand that people love.
Yeah, that reminds me of when restaurants call employees associates like Starbucks does.
Yeah.
When I first started, I didn't understand what was happening. Now you hear team members all the time. But we'll jump into our final segment here, which is Ben is going to read a couple tweets. It took me a while to kind of search the internet this time to find some of these. So, if you're a brand and you want to, tweet at our QSR account to kind of let us, know what's going on, feel free. So what do you have on that first one, Ben?
This first one is from Zaxby's. They are quote tweeting someone who said, "I feel like starting drama today. Everybody name your favorite type of fries." And below are pictures of your standard fry, your crinkle fry, your curly fry, and a couple other versions. But within that selection are tater tots.
That's what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, Zaxby's quote tweeted that and said straight up, "Tater tots are not fries," which I would have to agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with them too. Yes, and I will say I really like Zaxby's fries. I love whatever that stuff they put on it is. I guess it's just seasoned salt. I have no idea. I guess you would call them a crinkle fry. I don't want to offend Zaxby's, but I think that's what I would refer to their product as. But yeah, tater tot is an entirely different food category in my opinion. So anyway, yeah. What's the next one we got in here?
This next one is from Arby's. Coming soon, Arby's smoked sweats. So Arby's is coming out with some apparel. Made for everyone who has ever thought, "I wish my sweats were smoked over hickory wood by a Texas pitmaster and made with the level of craft and care that goes into Arby's real country style rib sandwich." So this is a real thing.
Yeah, well, I'll say that I don't know if they did this on purpose, but I'm pretty sure this sandwich is kind of going at the McRib, and I don't know if that's the case, they timed that up so well. It must have been some insider information in the food world going behind the scenes that maybe somebody leaked something. Obviously, this probably didn't actually happen, But yeah, it's Arby's has got always very interesting sandwiches. I tried the venison one last time around, and I remember walking into the Arby's And I ordered it, and the employee actually called back to someone saying, someone actually ordered this venison sandwich, and then they had no idea how to make it. So hopefully, I'm pretty sure from things I heard that was not a normal experience, but it was unique to have a deer sandwich at a fast food restaurant. I have not tried this country style rib sandwich, but these apparel lines to go along with things goes back to the red marketing and Taco Bell. And this is now suddenly fast food is like a cultural hip thing, I guess, which is cool. I don't know. I don't know if you would wear this, Joseph. It's
I'm wearing them right now. I don't think it would. I mean, it's fun to see some of the brands try to have fun in that, and with the merch and the swag aspect. I think some have definitely swung for the fences and hit, and some have swung for the fences and missed. But I think it's more about the attention. I think it's more about that social currency than it is about literally getting people into sweatpants.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we should probably sell QSR swag, but have to see if we could get that through. All right, so what's our last one here?
Wait, if you do, you have to make sure it's made out of a material that doesn't stain or like absorb, because it would literally be for like when you're eating fast food, so like maybe like a Teflon or something, maybe
like Under Armour material, a dry fit QSR t-shirt.
That's right.
Okay, I think we can find that in the budget. The final tweet is from Chipotle, and it's a picture of a smoked brisket, of course, which is their new menu item. And they quote, and they show this picture, and the caption is, "Chipotle never changes their menu," but they typed it in that funky lowercase uppercase style that has been that was trending, a couple of years ago, to like that sarcastic tone.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to read it like Chipotle never changes its menu.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, whenever I know it's SpongeBob, whenever I see it, though, it reminds me of those cutouts of like, ransom letters.
Oh.
But the reason I picked this one was just because I was so surprised that this had 63,000 likes, and I don't know why. I mean, I know that the brisket is a really ambitious and well-received product on their part, and I guess that's kind of the point of it. But I was just impressed that this had that kind of engagement, which was so beyond most of the tweets that I was able to find. So I guess people want to try brisket. I don't know what to make of it, but it's about, I guess I was impressed. I don't know.
I'll have to taste it. Sure.
Yeah, I got to try it too. It's definitely on my list. I've made brisket before. I'm not going to pretend to be some sort of aficionado in that realm, but it's a very difficult thing to make. So, although I imagine they have, one of these combo oven or combi oven type deals where they set it and it cooks itself. But either way, I'd be very interested to check it out. But anyway, Joseph, thank you for joining us. I think we are at the end here, and I appreciate your time. It was fun. So
yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it was great. And anybody, again, if you want to reach out, you have any questions, let us know. We are always here. You can find Joseph online. I don't know if you have, if you want to kind of give him some places to find you.
Yeah. Check us out at Vigor Branding on social channels. And if you're looking for the book, it's bullhearted.co.
All right, cool. All right, well, thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
If you love what we've served up, please follow us at Vigor Branding on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Medium. Forktales is produced by the team at Vigor. Audio and video post-productions provided by Zencaster. Music performed by Jet Trash and licensed through musicbed.com. Joseph handles his own hair, makeup, and stunts. Copyright 2003 to 2021, Vigor Graphic Design LLC, all rights reserved.